Record. Okay, so I just started recording. So we just created 3 controllers. So one for the skills, one for the grades, and one for the users. So now that we have our controllers created, we can do our routes. So let's go to our routes.rb file. We're going to do our namespace API do end. So yeah, I'm not, let's just do one of these, and then we'll just use resources. So I could do a get request to, users. That should go to, users, to the users controller, to the index method. I don't want to type all these out because there's, 6 each times 3, that's 18 things. I'm going to just do it this way. Resources, skills. Do 3 of these for each of our controllers. So I'm going to do 1 for grades and 1 for users. So what does this do? This goes and creates all those standard routes for us. So I could start up my server. I want to see what that does. Just go to my localhost 3001 Rails info routes, and I can look at what routes that created. So created all my CRUD for my skills. So get API skills, that takes me to my index. A post API skills takes me to my skills create method, and so forth. So it's kind of those generic CRUD routes for all of my controllers, for all my models. Okay, so let's go to my users controller. Let's just kind of go through these a little more quickly. So, I'm going to have my index method. This is just going to render JSON user.all. I'm going to have these ones now are going to be can be very repetitive, right? These ones are going to just look the same like they have been copy and pasted. I guess that's fine. Set user. One of the nice things about Rails is we can be very conventional. So I'm going to want to do this for show and destroy. I don't know if I'm not going to do update quite yet. We'll see if we get there. So I'm going to leave update out for now. Private. Let's do our set user.
Just a heads up, your show definition is currently shows instead of show.
If it was shows, what error would I get?
I think you would try to use show, right? And it would say that show wasn't defined.
Yeah, so it'd be an undefined, like shows not defined, which would be a 404. So yeah, that's what I would see. Okay, so set user at user equals dot find params AD and def. What else? We're also going to want our user params here. We want to create a user. Params.require. So you do the name of your model, which is user, and then .permit whatever attributes you have on that table. So this one just has name. Do my create method. And user equals user.new user params And we try to, so here we save our user in memory with the information that was given to us with the form. We sanitize it. Then we try to save it to the database. If it saves successfully, then we can do a render JSON. We'll just say send back that saved user. If it doesn't save, then we'll render JSON. We'll do it just this as an object errors. Let's get the user dot errors dot full messages, just in case if the front end wants to do something with that. And then we'll also make sure it fails. This is important to do, 400 error. And then we could do our def destroy, where we just go ahead and render JSON at user.destroy. Okay. That looks good. I think something I could do now would just be a quick little Postman test. So we're going to do a get localhost 3001 API users. And that's working. So that grabs me all of my users. So I should do a get API users and then the ID of a particular user. That works. Should be able to do a post. Send it to user name param. So I can do like Tony. So 404 not found. What do I need to change something in Rails?
You're trying to do a post request to a specific user when, yeah, you just want to add it to the users.
I don't, how could that's, I mean, it kind of makes sense when you like think about it, like why I don't want to create user one. I just want to create a new user. So that's working. But yeah, if I want to like update this user, then I'm going to give it the ID, switch this to a put request, and then edit that. The action update could not be found. Did I spell update wrong? Oh, I didn't do it. Just do this really quick. Fine, I will be. So we use, because this one we just have to like grab our user, call update. And then here instead, I want to render the at user. I could make this an instance variable. It's not like this is, and if I want to be consistent, sure I can do that. Okay, so let's send that. The action update could not be found.
Did you do the before action on that update?
Oh yeah, thank you. So yeah, if I don't do that and I try to send that, now I get a 500 error. Here's this error that we see all the time. It's the same error, undefined method update on a nil class. I'm trying to call a method on something that's undefined or that's nil or null. So yeah, at user dot update, I'm trying to call update on at user. Well, at user is not defined because I did not do this in my before action. So update. Now before my update, I'm going to call this function, which defines my user. Cool, that works. I can do delete, and that deletes it. Try delete again, 404, because that's no longer in the database. Sweet. I am just going to slack out the skills one. So as you go through your homework though, do take the time to go through these controllers. This can be like a good little like review for you to like, since it's been a while you've done Rails, like these are just one model, like just kind of the standard CRUD actions. So use this as like a little bit of a review. So here's going to be our skill controller. Does anyone have just any, since it's been a week, since we've had some time, any questions on just kind of like our standard, like these actions in here, these standard CRUD actions in these controllers?
Maybe just a quick reminder of why we use the instance thing versus, you know how you had user at first and then you put the instance.
Yeah.
Why that?
So for like when I went to the create and I was like, I'll just make this an instance variable.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one, like this technically doesn't have to be an instance variable because I'm just like, so let's first just review like, and what's the difference between like the @ symbol? Like, what does this really do for us? Like when I say @ user in this class.
It means like that specific user, like an instance of it, not all of them. Is that right?
I mean, I could have like, I could do something like this. I could do like a def set x. I mean, it doesn't have to do with the actual, it could just be a variable. And then I could say like, you know, puts @ x. And you know, that would do, let's just say that's x here. That would puts out, you know, x here. Right? And then let's say like I had a before action set x on all of these. So I'm saying, hey, before every action, let's call this set x. And then, you know, we can call set x. So let's just see, like if I go, that's in my index method. So let's test it out. Let's go to my user. Let's do a call that triggers that method. So I'm going to do that with Postman. So if I wanted to see that, I need to go to my terminal. And there we go, x here. Because I'm in my index method, or right before I call it, I call that method. So what happens if I get rid of this @ symbol? Let's go try that again. I get a 500 error, like this undefined local variable or method x. Go check my server, like there it is, line 6. So let's just do this. That works. This is like an error. This is undefined. So what's the different, like what's that @ symbol doing? It's like a different kind of variable. It's what we call an instance variable in Ruby. This is just a local variable. It doesn't have the @ symbol. So remember, this is a thing with scope. X is not, since it's a local variable, X is only defined in this function. It's not visible anywhere else. And that's like like a rule Ruby has. If you name a variable like that, it's only going to be defined in that section of code, in this particular case, in this function. But if I make this a @ now I've declared this, I've changed the scope of this variable. So now it's globally scope, it's scoped to this file. So now I can access this variable anywhere. And what I do is I, like, before these actions, I define it. So I'm defining it here. And now it's visible anywhere. Could probably just do it right, like at y equals, y here. Don't need to do it in a, I'm trying to think if this will work. This actually, I don't think this will work. Let's see. I'm not sure, to be honest. Well, that should probably run that and define that. Let's try. It's not defined. I guess it never like ran this. It like needs to be ran in this before action to like go define it. But the difference is, like, if I don't have that @ there, that's just a locally scoped variable with the @ symbol. Now it's available, like now I can access it anywhere. Is that?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Any other like questions with it, like anything like that? I think that was a good question. So yeah, the reason I don't need to do this one in particular, like this create, is I'm not really using this user variable outside of this create function. It doesn't really matter. Like I can make it an instance variable. I can make it like be that instance variable that's used across it. Doesn't really matter. Because before all these actions update, destroy, like it's going to reset the user with the given ID.
So if it's the instance variable, you can be used globally, meaning like anywhere in that file. And then
Yeah.
if it's not, it's just within that one function.
Yeah.
Okay.
What does having the word private do?
So private, let's do this in this will be easier to see in like a user model. So this is something with classes. So we did briefly talk about classes. I kind of forgot to mention like what private does. So beyond private, these are going to be only visible to class. So what the hell does that mean? Let's do some, like, because on Monday we did talk about classes. So this is just a class right here, class user. It inherits from application record. I could come in here and do like a say hi method. How do in Ruby, if you can remember, how do I grab, like, I have a user, I want to grab the user that's calling this method. Does anyone remember like the keyword, how I grab the particular user that's calling the method? Because this is going to be this is our instance method.
So like the global one, I forgot what it's called.
It's self.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So I can do self.name. Hello, I am self.name. And let's do like, so in here, I want to have like a private section. So password. That's the person's password. We'll just have it return that. But it's only visible to the class. So what does that mean? I think we just kind of have to like go explore this. So I declared an instance method called say hi. There's also a instance method called password, but it's only visible to the class. So methods below this, only visible to class. I should say, to the file, i.e. the file. So I can now, go step into Rails console. I can do a user.first. So let's just call that u1 equal user.first. So now I have I can consider this variable like this u1 to be a instance of the user class. So I can do user.say hi. And there's that message, hello, I am. And then it's doing self.name, like grab my name, Loretta Nader. I can do, I want to grab that password though, because that was a function on there. I can't do that. Password's a private method. So that's what that's doing. I can't access that method on the instance, but I can use it in my class. If I make a change, I need to restart my console. See, so now I can say hi, and now I can use that function in my class, but I can't use it on the instance. So that's what the private's doing. What was does anyone remember? We'll actually see this today. What if I use the self keyword in my definition? What does this do? Remember how this, if I use the self keyword, this makes this a class method. It's kind of called on the class as a whole. So you think about an instance method, that's really meant to be called on one thing of your class. A class method's the whole thing. So what we've been using a ton of class methods on our user, right? If I go to my seeds file, skill.create. Create is a class method on my skill class. Skill.all, that is a class method. Because I want to grab all the classes, or I want to go find one class, but I'm finding it on the class. So there's we've been using these class methods all the time. Just another review on that. Where are those methods? I don't have a all defined here. Where are those methods getting defined? How is that working? Because there's my class user. There's no all or create or find methods, but I'm calling them. Where are those methods? Where that's just magic, right? Is it magic?
No.
So remember, this is inheritance. So our user is extending from application record. Well, really, all of our classes are doing that. Really what application, if I look at the application class, this really doesn't have much going on either. It's just, this is all extending from active record. Oh, okay. So if I go to, active record, this is where they're all of these methods are defined. The active record is defining them. Oh, there's the create. There's the all. Like it's the active record that's doing that. But I can come in here and I can add my own methods. I can do an instance method. I can do a class method. Return,
There's no returns, right?
there is returns. What if I don't remember with Ruby?
You don't need it.
I might Ruby, I might need it, but Ruby implicitly returns the last thing. So
Okay.
where I would need it, let's say I have an if statement. And like, I don't know, if true, let's say I want to return, if this is true, I want to return like, XXXXX. What would this as is, what would this function return? If I call
The X's.
now, I mean, it would run this, it does nothing with this XXX, and then it comes down here, it runs this line of code and it returns this. So as is, this would return 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Oh,
So this would be, if I did, like, if this was true, I did want to return this, I would have to put the return keyword there.
I see.
I mean, I can put the, I can put it there because it is doing that implicitly, but you'll see Ruby code where it's kind of the convention not to. But yeah, there would definitely be cases where you have to say return. But saying, saying return here is not going to, this is just more a little like explicitly saying, hey, return this. So let's do, I created this method called count yo. Just going to do self.all.size. Let's see if this works. Do rels c. Let's do user.count yo. So here self refers to the instance. Here self refers to the class. Because I'm using the self keyword to define this method. So the little kind of overloading of self and what self is. Here self is the class. So if I do self, so here I could do something like self.all.size. Be the same as doing user.all.size. Same thing. And we're going to want to do this. We're going to want to come in and create our own class method today. So we're actually going to do this. This is a good little review on kind of object-oriented programming. Cool. And yeah, these are good questions. So anything else on, we were asking about controllers, but this can also like go into models and object-oriented programming.
We related to the private thing in our user controller file. Why do we put those two things in the, why would we put them in the private? In the user controller file?
It's kind of like, it's kind of weird because we don't like really, we don't like see these methods getting used behind the scenes, like our index, our show, because we don't like, we're not going in and like creating, like we don't go do like a user controller dot new. Like we do this right here with our user model. We create a new instance of it right here. So we're actually using our class, like this is more what you would see in object-oriented programming. Like you use the class to create a new one and then do stuff with it. But with like this index, show, create, or like our users controller, we're not really doing anything with it. So we don't really see it being used. It's kind of weird. It's like we're defining a, like think about defining a function and never using it. Right, that's kind of weird to do that, right? We're kind of doing something similar here where we're defining this controller and we're not using it. Rails is doing it, is using it though. Like Rails behind the scenes, like when we do it, like the HTTP request, it knows how to set it up and it knows how to use it. And so to answer your question, why we set these as private, it's really because it's more like I don't plan like to ever use these methods outside of this class. Like this set user is only like, I'm only really expecting it to get used in these methods. It's just more, and like same thing with the user params. Like I only am expecting this function to ever get used here and there and nowhere else in this application. So I'll just mark it as private so no one tries to use it elsewhere. It's a little kind of hard to like since we're not really using this class, it's a little hard to see, but that's the short answer. If you have a function in your class that you don't expect to use outside your class, then yeah, you can mark it as private. Like if I went to my user, like I want to mark this one as private because like I want to call that on an instance of my user. Like I want to get the information, but maybe something like, it doesn't even have to be like secret. Like password gives like kind of the sense of like it's going to be secret, but it could be like, I don't know, like get first name. Okay, I just really don't expect to ever call this on an instance. I just want to use it in my class itself. I would put it in the private section. It's kind of like in object-oriented programming, you hear this term like encapsulation. And like, I might try to like hide things. I might try to like kind of make my class a little bit of a black box. So like who's ever using it, they don't really care how it's written. And I want them to use it in a particular way. I don't want them to use this get first name method. Only I want to use it in the class. So I'm not going to make it like visible to them because I don't want to like have to go test it and make sure that they're by using it, they're going to like create some strange side effect. So it's kind of a more like advanced question, but that's the short answer. Does that make sense? Kind of like, I'm just doing it because I think the short answer is I don't intend to use the function anywhere than outside of my class. Or then sorry, I don't intend to use the function outside of my class. I'll mark it as private. You'll also see a protected keyword. If you run into that, it's a lot like private. Methods are visible only to this class and classes inheriting. So this you would need some inheritance, but inheriting. So that you might see that protected. So it's like the private, but it would allow the children, the classes inheriting to get these methods. Cool. Any other questions? So let's go do like a actual example of like why I might want to go in and create my own custom method inside of here. And classes can get your models can get kind of in depth. So there's kind of a saying in Rails, like it's just kind of more to help memorize, like skinny controllers, fat models. The idea is we want to keep our controllers simple. I think it's more accurately said like simple controllers, smart models. But you'll hear that saying. So we want to keep our controllers simple. We want them to be kind of like they're the traffic cop, they're the director, or like they're the almost kind of like the server at the restaurant. Like we don't want them cooking, we don't want them, making things. We just want them taking orders, giving it to the kitchen, and like sending the orders back to the person. We want the complexity to happen with our models. I mean, I could right here in this show or in this index method, I could do like a SQL call right here to do it. I could do a lot of logic right here, but just kind of part of the MVC paradigm. We have simple controllers, smart models. So let's go look at our grades controller, because what I want to do is let's just start with the index method and kind of just do like render JSON grade all. So after that review, we can say, hey, I have my grade model, which is defined right here. There's my grade model. So a lot going on right here with this inheriting from application record and this as well. A lot of nice stuff getting set up for us. So, and then I'm using it in my grades controller. So I'm calling the all method on my grade class. So all is a class method on this model, which knows how to go get all of the things from the database. And we have our route set up, so this should work. Did I stop my server? I believe so. there's all my grades. Perfect. Now, I don't really like how this data is coming back. I don't like how it has user ID and skill ID as just a number. That's not really friendly. I mean, I definitely could give this back to the front end and, you know, they could go get the users and they could use some JavaScript to go like figure out, you know, what user, like they could go figure out what the name is of this ID. But for this one, what I want to do is I want to do this in Rails. I want to like format the data to the front end. I'm going to be a nice backend developer and be like, here you go. Here's some nice looking data instead of just having these IDs. Now, I don't know SQL yet, so we're not going to use SQL. So no SQL. That would be the better way. But we don't know. So I'm just going to use good old fashioned Ruby. And you know, that's like my Rails. So let's do this. I'm going to do a binding.pry. Has anyone seen this before or used this?
I've seen pry before.
Yeah, we haven't used this yet. This is a good way to, it's actually a very useful debugging tool. This is a way to pause our code. And actually I need to do this probably before I render my JSON. Actually, no, I think I can do this wherever, but I'm going to do this right here before I render my JSON. And let me just to show you, like, I'm going to just comment that out. Let's just test, make sure, you know, this is working. I'm going to now put this binding.pry in. And something for this to work that is part of this clone project, binding.pry, is you need to have this gem installed here. If you create a new Rails project, by default, this gem is not going to be in here. I've added this as part of this starter project. It's kind of like telling you that's been added here. Okay, so I can't do binding.pry. I'll just say this need pry Rails gem to do this. So let's go hit send. So this is just saying loading. Okay, now it's not, it doesn't seem like it's working. It's like kind of timed out. But if I go to my server, I'm now, what I would say, like I'm now in my like pry, like I've paused my code right here. And now I'm like here, I can type exit to get out of here. And now I'm no longer in my pry and I get the data back. So I could do something like this. I could do like grades equal grade.all. Put my pry down here. Let's do x equals 1. User equal user dot first. Let's just say there's like some stuff going on here, and then I have my, and then let's do like skill 1 equals skill dot first. G1. Okay. And then I have my pry. So let's go hit send again. Okay, that's going to put me in my pry. It puts me right here, and it puts me at line 9. Why that's important is now I can come type in here and I can say like X. Oh, X is defined, U1. U1's defined because it's like ran all this code and now it's just paused right here. So all of this stuff is defined. So what I want to do is I have an array of data, these grades with ID, score, user ID, and skill ID. What I want to do is I want to transform this array of data from this array. And instead of saying user ID, I want this to say user like, maybe I want to say have it user and then have it actually have the object of the user. And for the skill, I will actually want it to have the object of the skill, which would have like the skill ID, the skill name, the description. So I want to take an array of data and transform it into something that looks different. What method do I use?
Map.
Yeah, that is map. So I can do a grades dot map. Do grade. So this is just how we write a map function in Ruby. We don't pass it a function. We do this, we give it what's called a block. There's blocks and procs. This one's a block. But this is kind of just, you can kind of think of this as like what I'm going to do for each, each thing. Call this current thing. But really, if I'm mapping over a grades array, that's going to be a grade. So that's kind of like the parameter. Why don't I put a binding.pry inside of here? I'm going to exit out of this one. That completes that call. So now I can send it again. So now I'm in my pry. So what is grade going to be right here? If I type grade and hit enter, what would I expect to see?
All your grades.
So grades is all my grades. I'm doing a grades.map do grade. What is this grade? Because I'm right here in my code. Should what I'm asking, like what happens if I type grade? Is this undefined? Is this all my grades? Is this one grade? Is it?
Should be all your grades, right?
This is just one grade.
Okay, so just starts with the first one.
Yeah, I'm in my map function.
That makes sense.
There's my first grade. And it's a binding.pry. But here I could do like, this is where binding.pry can be good because I can be like, oh wait, what do I want to do? I want to like create an object that has the score. So grade. Well, it's like, how do I get the score? Well, that's going to be grade dot score. Okay, cool. So I can start to create this object, except what is this called in Ruby? Yeah, it's a hash. Cool. So now I'm creating a hash. Okay, I want the score. Now I want the user. Ooh, how do I get the user? I want the user that from this grade.
Grade dot user ID.
Grade dot underscore user ID. Okay, there's the ID. So I could do like user dot find grade. Sweet, there's the user. Or since I set up my association, I mean, that works. I have a nice little shorthand for this. I can just do grade.user because a grade belongs to a user. And when I did in my model, when this was set up right here, belongs to user, that allows me to take that instance of a grade and call grade.user. I can also do grade.skill. It's a little bit of Rails magic. So I can do grade dot skill. Cool, there's my skill. So what I can do is I can, like, because this is what I want to kind of create. I want to get my score. That's going to be grade dot score. Should also probably get back the ID too. That'd be nice. Grade dot ID. And then I can do my user. That's going to be grade dot user. And I can do skill. Grade dot skill. Syntax errors somewhere. Right there, forgot a comma. So now I'm creating this object that has the ID, has the score, has the user, which has all this stuff. So sweet. So the point of me, like the nice thing about this pry was I was able to, in this pry, kind of pause my code with just that one, where is it, grades controller, with just that one grade, and like kind of figure out what I want to create. So I'm going to type exit to get out of my pry. It's interesting it got that change. But why am I still in my pry? It's pretty cool. It's like saving it. I don't know. This is a little weird that it's kind of doing that. Oh, why am I saying let? It's weird it's getting this change, but why am I in my pry still? Like, why when I type exit is it putting me back in my pry? It's kind of weird since I made this change right here. It's a little buggy, but this is what I would expect to be back in my pry. So I have a grade.
Because of that hash we just created.
Yeah, just kind of ignore I did that. I think that is, let's just go back to, it's actually not getting that change. Or it looks like it is, I don't know, but notice right now the grade ID is 6. I type exit. I now do grade. That's 7. So I'm exiting out of the pry, but what do I do in my map function? I'm going through each thing and running this function. So I go through each thing and I run the pry. So now I'm on the next grade. So grade, that's ID 8, exit, because I have my pry in my map function. So it's going to finish it and then it'll do it for the next grade. So this is a good way to kind of see that map function being run. How many grades? Oh, I have 12 grades, right? I'm going to have to do this like 23 more times. So I'm just going to do Control C. Is that even working? I'm like stuck in my pry now. Like exit's not working. So you can get into trouble, like Control C is not working. So if you put your pry in a loop, that can maybe get yourself into trouble where you keep on calling it. So I could run exit a whole bunch, or if like this was happening a million times, I could just quit that, like close that window, open it back up. But pries can be nice because they can allow you to like step in, pause your code and test it. But like, you know, be careful using pries, you know, in loops. So we'll keep on calling it. Right, we're in a loop right here. a map is a loop. It goes through each thing in your array and performs a function. So if I have a binding.pry, it's going to call that binding.pry for each thing in my array. I don't want to do that. I just want to, in my index method, and I don't need to do all this crap. I was just kind of showing you, we could throw in a binding.pry and like those things would be defined. But here in my index, I'm going to do a map. I'm going to go through each of them. I'm going to grab the ID. I'm just kind of changing how this data looks. So now if I do a send to start my server, that's -p 3001. Undefined local variable or method grades. Oh, I need to grab all my grades. I need to do grades equal grade.all. But there's that undefined error again. See, a million times in your life. Okay, that's not doing anything. What do I need to do with this? I keep on saying. What do I usually like?
Oh, you need to set grade, the before action.
I don't need, I'm getting all my,
Oh.
I'm getting all my grades.
Yeah, that's right.
What am I like, if I look, what error am I, or it's not really an error, it's working.
Is it
No,
because you're not doing the render JSON?
yeah, I'm not returning anything, but with this, I don't want to return. I want to render JSON. And I called this data, just render JSON data. There you go. There's my array. So there's my object. So ID score, but then I have the user, which is going to be the actual object. Okay, so this works, right? That's what I wanted to do. It's working. But this is like considered, bad style. I don't want this logic in my controller. Why don't I want this logic in my controller? It's not the controller's job. It's like if you go back to the restaurant analogy, it's not the server's job to cook the meals. That's the model's job. So I want to put this in my model. So I want to put this functionality in my grade model. So let's go to my grade model. I'm just going to take all of this. Go to my grade model. I'm going to create a method. Now, I'm grabbing back all of this data from my model. Do you think this should be an instance? Should I call this method on one thing of my model, or should I call it on the whole model? Like, should this be a class method or an instance method that does this?
Probably a class method.
Yeah, because I'm saying, hey, grade model, go get me all. It's like an all method. It's like my version of all. So yeah, this is going to be a class method. So I say self, and then I'm going to name this like all and then some. So now I've created a class, my own method, all and then some. That's going to do this. So I could use grade.all. I could also say like self. Let's use self just to do this. I mean, I could do right all here. Let's do it like this. Actually, let's put in a variable. Okay. Do I need to change anything with this method? This gets a little, what would you have to do with JavaScript if you're doing a map function? What would you normally do? You return this, right? You return that array. I could throw that return there. I don't need to because it will implicitly return that, but maybe I'll just throw that in there so you can see it. So my model gets all the grades, it maps over them, creates this nice object, and gives it back to my controller. Now my model's not going to do the render JSON. That's not the model's job. Like it's the model's job to like get and organize the data and then give it back to the controller. So my controller, I'm not going to do all of this here. Oh, I need to go back to my grades controller. I get rid of all of this. I can just do a render JSON. Use my grade model or and then the all and then some. So now my controller is clean. It's just, simple. That's what we like. I think, yeah, better said, like simple controllers, smart models. And now we try it out. Should work. It works the same. It's like, it doesn't change how it works. It's just, we just cleaned up our code to follow Rails style. What if I wanted to have both? Let's say maybe I want both methods. I want one that is all and then some. Now what do I need to do to make this work? Like, first of all, which one is it going to use? I don't really know because it's using the one that's at the bottom, maybe. Like, which index method do you go to? This is bad, right? Very, very bad. I have two methods that have the same name. I have no idea. I would kind of maybe expect that to break, but it's working. It might just be doing whichever one's at the bottom. Either way, that's not what I want. So what do I need to do?
Just call one of the index methods something else.
Yeah, that works for me. Let's give that a different name. Let's just call it all and then some. Well, so now this has a different name. So what do I need to do now as like the backend developer?
You need to put that in your routes, right?
Yeah, I need to now go declare a route for this. And no longer can I use like, it's not going to be like this conventional name. So now I do need to know how to like do this and like go declare my own one. So I'm going to do a get request. Just call it, let's just do a different name. Let's call it all-yo. So that should go to my grades controller, to the all, and I already forgot what I called it, all and then some method. So now a get request to API all-yo should now hit that method. So I do an API grades Well, actually, it's just going to be that, right? Now I've confused myself. I need to do a get API audio. Oh wait, no, it's an all. It's not all and then some. It's audio. And that's that URL. I might want to like make this, you know, kind of say, hey, this is like grades. That might make the like URL a little more readable. So kind of like when I type in that URL, I know it's like grades, and then it's like my own little thing. But I come in there, I create my own little custom thing. So yeah, here we totally are doing like custom stuff. I create a custom method or custom route. And then in my grades controller, I have that custom method that then is calling a method I added to my grade model. I'm going to say this is a bad way to do this. But for now. This would be like really slow if you have like a big data set. Like mapping over our grades. It's kind of like really because behind the scenes, like these are doing SQL calls to like grab the user and grab the skill. So we're getting into like this doing multiple SQL calls. Like we're going to be doing like n SQL calls for as many grades as we have. And if we had like 100,000 grades, we'd be doing 100,000 SQL calls, and that would be bad. That you would really like, you would see that. Should we test it out? How could we test this out really quick? See how slow this is. Go to my seeds file. Go create 50,000 users. Maybe let's just maybe start with like 1,000. Let's do 10,000. Sweet. Not too hard to do. Just a DB reset. This might take a second to seed this database. That might be too big. Yeah, I'm gonna like stop that. Let's just do 1,000. So yeah, I mean, because this has to like, this is creating stuff into our database. So we're doing like, you know, 5,000 database calls here because we're creating 5 grades for each user. So that's going to take some time. Nothing we can do about that. That's just this shouldn't take too long. Should be done. I thought this would take under a minute, but there we go. So yeah, now we have like 5,000 grades. Let's see if this takes a while. I know my server running. Loading. So yeah, that's taking a while. If I look at my server, see it's doing all these SQL calls. It finally got done. But that's pretty bad, right? That took 7 seconds. That is a long time. And it's not that many. It's like 5,000 things. It's really not that many things to grab. So, but this will work for now. Just don't use a lot of data. Cool. Let's take a break. We'll leave the controller here. I kind of want to get into some JavaScript stuff, React stuff for your homework. Just, yeah, but this we'll definitely spend tomorrow on this as well. So let's come back at 12:30 and then we'll do some React stuff and then we'll have lunch.
Okay.
Stop sharing.